Good afternoon and welcome to today's Nonprofit Net webinar, Partnerships with Purpose. I'm Dora Wong, a board member of Nonprofit Net. We're an all-volunteer-run organization whose mission is to advance Greater Boston's small and medium nonprofits through free programs like this webinar and our executive coaching leadership acceleration program. If you benefit from the program today, there are 3 ways you can help us. First, we appreciate having your comments on today's program because it helps us plan future programs, and it's important feedback for our speakers. Second, help keep our webinars free of charge. We depend on your financial support. If you're able to support us with a suggested donation of $10 to $20 or more, we'll be sharing you links to our feedback survey and our donation page through our Zoom chat. Third, help us spread the word about Nonprofit Net through your network. Forward our emails, like, and share our posts on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you. Today, I'm pleased to introduce our presenter, nonprofit consultant, Sharmon Lebby. Welcome, Sharmon.
I'm like, let me get back to my screen so I can say hi. How is everyone doing? It's so great to see so many faces here today. Should I go ahead and get started, Dora?
Yes, please do.
Okay, perfect. So I am Sharmon Lebby, founder and CEO of Blessed Designs Consulting, where I work with social and environmental impact organizations to help them build solid foundations for their nonprofits and to really see them grow and to thrive. And so today we're going to be talking about partnerships with purpose, which is just all about collaboration and getting really excited about a few different things. We'll get into those. But before we really get started, I just want to know how many of you think that collaboration is really essential for a nonprofit. You can just drop a yes and no. Maybe you're still thinking about it in the chat. Well, I see some yeses with exclamation marks. Y'all are my people. I love it. That's what I like to see. Yes, yes, yes. This is great. Perfect. So just first, a quick little bit about me. I'm a nonprofit consultant, strategist, your friendly neighborhood nonprofit cheerleader. My work, of course, is all about making sure that nonprofits build those really strong foundations, impactful strategies, and of course, partnerships, because that's what we're all about here today. But enough about me. So first, I'm going to tell you about Joe. And as you can tell, Joe, who is the founder of Partnerships R Us, names have been changed a little bit, right? We're changing some names to protect the not so innocent. So just a little bit about Joe. Joe was had a nonprofit organization that had gone through a few different iterations, and he was really trying to build this global entity. He had big plans, big dreams. On paper, his organization looked like an absolute dream. It was amazing. But he came to me and he was like I want to make this bigger. This is a great idea. And I just can't find anybody to partner with. Nobody really wants to partner with me. I couldn't understand it. I didn't understand what was going on because I'm like, everything is perfect. Everything about your organization is perfect. He had a great network, great everything really. Until I started to work with Joe, right? And that's when everything started to make a little more sense because it was super clear that Joe didn't necessarily want a partnership. Joe just wanted to make a name for himself and his organization. And when the work started, it was really, really clear that he wanted the benefits of a partnership, but not the actual partnership. And we probably all know the type. Maybe some of us have been the type. It's okay. You can raise your hand if maybe you've been the type. Have you been a Joe where they're really, really good at those, like, we're in this together speeches, but when it's time to like roll up those sleeves and put in the work, they're nowhere to be found. And so this taught me a couple things. Number one, You cannot call it a collaboration or a partnership if only one person or only one side is doing all of the work. And then number two, that real collaboration isn't just about like aligning your logos and expectations and energy, but it's really about, I shouldn't say, sorry, it's not about aligning logo, it's about aligning efforts and your expectations and your energy, right? Because the truth is, again, some of us are Joe, some of us have all been Joe. Collaborations have really just meant like foundations cut us a big check, or businesses give us in-kind donations in order to get their logo on a flyer. And those things can absolutely be true. Those are part of collaborations, but it can also be so, so much more if we really allow it to be. So this is a few things that we're going to cover today. One, we're just going to unpack what collaboration looks like when it's done right, why it's necessary, the different people that you can and should team up with, and then really how to make it work and for real, not just in theory. So before we get into it, I want you to think about the last collaboration effort you had, or what you thought was a collaborative effort, and if you really felt like everybody walked away with a win-win. You can just drop a yes, drop a no in the chat if you thought your collaboration effort was a win-win for both sides. We got quite a mix here. I love seeing some yeses. I love seeing those yeses, which makes me good. And so I'm going to go through this like presentation today and really like help you to figure out why it was working for you. And then of course I see a lot of no's and those kind ofs, and that happens a lot. So don't feel bad. As you can see, you got plenty of company in there as well. But let's make sure we know how to get it right next time. So first, we're just going to go through a little definition, because what is collaboration? We're just going to break that down. It's not just two organizations, standing next to each other on a stage, smiling for the camera, holding a check. So we love those, though. We love those big old checks. But it's all about working together, right? It's sharing resources, it's sharing goals, ideas, credit, and yes, responsibilities. So just as a quick little breakdown of what collaboration is and what it is not, because I kind of look at collaboration as like the potluck, right? It's where everybody's bringing their best dish and not just showing up to eat the food, which I'll be honest, I've been that. I've been the Joe in that situation where I'm not bringing the food, I'm just showing up to eat. But that's okay, because we're going to get this right and we're going to learn how to really make it happen, right? So we're going to think about joint efforts. We're going to think about trust and mutual respect. And then, of course, we want to think about achieving something that you cannot achieve on your own, because that is the ultimate goal in all of this. What collaboration it is not a one-sided hustle, right? It is not vague agreements, and it's not just a checkbox that we're getting out of the way to make things look good. But in the end, like, what are the actual benefits of collaboration? Because when it's real and when it's intentional, I'm like, the rewards are just like perfection. So 3 big benefits right here: shared resources, reduced cost, enhanced impact and reach, and knowledge and skill sharing. And we are going to break some of these down here for you in just a bit. Let's go ahead and get started. Like your shared resources, right? And actually, Dora had sent me a grant that was up that they were just doing. But you can do joint grant applications. That is a thing. We can share spaces, right? Like, why would you team up for grants when you know that they're scarce, they're hard to get, when you can, or why wouldn't you team up for grants is what I should say. But you can save money, you can stretch your budgets. Grants are really hard to come by, and across the board, like donations are down, volunteers can be really difficult to engage. But if you share your resources, this can help you out in the long run. So just to kind of give you an example of an organization that I worked with this year, they lost the building that they were operating out of. They had to get rid of everything. Stuff had to go into storage. They were trying to figure out what to do in the meantime. And so one of the services that they had offered was serving lunch to the community. They serve a lot to the homeless and the people in need within their community. And now that opportunity was completely gone. And they had a good group of engaged volunteers that kind of came in throughout the week to volunteer. And now those volunteers had nothing to do. And so, one problem is keeping those volunteers engaged, right? We keep them around, make sure they still know that they're useful. Um, and then we still want to somehow serve people food. And it's like, how do we do all of this when we no longer have a building? We have no idea what to do anymore. Well, they had somewhat of a sister organization. This was an organization that they had built a relationship with over time. This organization in itself really is big on collaboration and unity and partnership. But they ended up like, hey, if you babysit our plants, and when I'm saying plants, I'm not talking like, 3 or 4 plants. I'm talking like 20 plants, some of them like gigantic. So they just asked this other nonprofit, like, hey, if you can like help us watch our plants, you can have these volunteers and they can come in and do their thing with your organization instead while we are waiting for, trying to find a new place. And so that's what happened. So twice a week, their volunteers went into this other organization to cook meals for their people, the group that they served, and they got to have their plants babysat, and they didn't have to like get rid of all their plants. Well, they had to give up a couple of them because some of the building fell in love with them. So they did end up getting rid of a couple plants. But that's just a really, really small example of what collaboration can do, right? When an organization is in need. This is probably not even something you guys really thought of, but this is just one of those little tiny things, right? So the other thing is just enhanced impact in your reach. So if you've ever heard the phrase, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. But collaboration helps you go farther, right? You can think bigger campaigns, expanded reach, stronger presence in your community. If you want to think about how this works, another organization that I know called Intersectional Environmentalists, they are essentially an eco-minded media company and they uplift smaller organizations. So they have a whole program called like an amplifier program that they actually are partnered up with like Pinterest to fund. And what it does is it's social media based. So you know how hard social media can be and trying to get posts out every day, multiple times a week. And they have whole videos, whole reels out. And the way they do that is by letting a lot of these smaller organizations create those things and basically just team up with IE in order to put them out. So IE has or thousands, tens of thousands of followers. So these much smaller organizations get a much bigger reach by just creating one little video once a week that IE will help them put out. And that's just another example of enhanced impact for these smaller organizations, as well as helping intersectional environments complete their cause and their mission to get out information about the environment. And then, of course, we have knowledge and skill sharing. So I think it's really important to remember like collaboration is a two-way learning street as well. It's not just all like money or like in-kind donations. This is a great way to learn and to partner, right? Your organization has skills and strategies that a partner organization may not, right? So you can swap different resources and vice versa. Another great example I have seen is organizations team up for different webinars and seminars, like one that they could not afford, like a learning or training on their own from someone. But if they partnered up with another organization that could fit like half the cost, then suddenly their whole organization could um, get the benefits of those trainings as well. And then I think of Nonprofit Net. We are all here sitting in this wonderful webinar today. I feel like they have a great platform and a great example of ways that you can partner, right? They want to uplift nonprofits and their leaders. They don't necessarily have all the information and the skills in order to do that, but they can bring in these different people. They can bring in different individuals and businesses and organizations and expertise to help them provide that knowledge to nonprofit leaders and to still accomplish their mission. So you guys give them a big hand clap for that. Yay. But of course, you guys probably want to know, I know a lot of people did, different ways that you can collaborate. And I just want to say there are 50 million different ways because there are lots of organizations, lots of different people. Everybody has different ways, different things. Some of them are like huge collaborations, like the Bush Foundation recently partnered with a nonprofit out of Minnesota to give out like $50,000 wealth building grants to Black and Indigenous folk. And they also like, little small things like plant sitting for another organization. So I gave you like a few organizations or a few examples of different ways that you can collaborate, but I want to get into it a little more. And I want to start just with this quote here that was on Kevin Brown's LinkedIn. And it just says, like, while it might not be the equivalent of walking down the red carpet at a Hollywood premiere, nonprofit organizations are increasingly putting their name in lights by becoming involved in collaborative efforts to produce documentaries. And this was just on a post about a list of like 10 different documentaries on Netflix alone, that featured nonprofits and how nonprofits were able to get their names out there by collaborating with Hollywood, or collaborating with different production companies and really getting their stories told in these bigger ways. So here's a fun little screen for you that you can check out, look, all the different ways to collaborate. We're gonna break them down just a little bit more, but you can shot it. You will also get copies of these slides. So, and I see Dora has put that collaboration grant in the chat, so you guys make sure to check that out as well. But here again, just some breaking down of some resource sharing, just sharing different ways you can share office space, event venues, equipment. Excuse me. We can, share staff and volunteers, technology. I know Canva, if you are a 501c3, you can get that for free, the pro version for free. However, not everybody's a 501c3, right? Sometimes we have smaller organizations, sometimes we have just community orgs. But if you partner up, you can share the cost of those as well. These are just different ways that you can collaborate and share to reduce costs. Here's a few other things. Co-hosting events. That is actually something that's happening right now where I am in Grand Forks, North Dakota. We have two different nonprofit organizations that pulled together, created a committee for Black History Month, and are putting on events throughout the city through the whole month. Now, neither of these organizations would have been able to handle that on their own, but together they were able to pull everything together and have, I believe there's like 10, 15 different events happening this month, which is completely unprecedented for this area. Another thing is just shared campaigns. I really want to share an example of the Pay Up campaign. I don't know if anyone has ever heard of that, but it was an ethical fashion, sustainable fashion thing. So during COVID, there was just, again, an unprecedented amount of cancellations from different brands from factories, and factories lost out on like billions, tens of billions of dollars. And it was from goods that had already been produced, goods that had already been shipped, and shipments just got turned away. Stuff that brands had ordered and then just decided they didn't want anymore and just kind of washed their hands of it. So there was a few organizations that had been like writing letters to congressmen and to senators trying to, rectify this. They were writing letters to different newspapers. Remake is an organization that I work with. They started a change.org little campaign, but eventually it got so big that they were able to form a coalition with like 7 other organizations. And all together, by the end of 2022, they were able to recover $22 billion for those factories. And so that's just another example of what a group effort can do. When these organizations all pull together, they were able to recoup quite a bit of money for the factories from orders that had just been canceled out of the blue. And actually, sorry, I'm gonna go back really quick because this is just for that service delivery on like, sharing resources or sharing services. So now I'm going to go to this because in this slide, we'll have like a little link on it here for you to look at more. But I wanted to talk about Sane and Second Harvest Heartland and a partnership between them. These are two Minnesota nonprofits. This is another COVID story. A lot of stuff happened during COVID. But for Sane is like a youth sports initiative. And they had different facilities where kids kind of come learn sports and different trainings. Well, during COVID, of course, all of that went away. They couldn't really do anything. The kids couldn't really meet in person anymore, but they also noticed that the kids were no longer really engaged in school. And so they partnered with another business and they were able to get their facilities, all the air ducts and everything upgraded. And so that the ventilation system worked a lot better for the COVID response. They were able to put in different cubicles and different things into the building and the facility so that the kids could actually come to school and still kind of talk and meet with their friends, but in a safer little space. Well, part of the thing was that they realized that kids weren't necessarily eating. They would eat there, but they weren't always eating at home. And so they started sending food with them home. Well, of course, when cars see, a line of cars trying to pick up food, everybody else wants to get in line too. And so they realized, okay, this is a little bigger than us. We can't do this alone. And so they partnered up with Second Harvest, who is essentially like a warehouse of food and partners with several other organizations as part of Feeding America, which is just a network of different food pantries. But together, them and Second Harvest were able to feed all the people that were coming in. Not to mention, of course, this is the power of volunteers, right? They were like, hey, we know some other people that could use some food, but they can't get here. So again, with Second Harvest, they were able to expand and create a delivery service. And now today, after COVID, 5 years later, we now have, I believe, it's like 3 or 4 different new like food delivery and food distribution spots that they were able to implement just because these two organizations were like, hey, we can work together to make this happen instead of trying to do this all on their own, right? The power of collaboration. We love to see it. And that little thing to NPR, there is an episode with Tony Sane and Angela Davis, I believe, on their website that you could check out. You can probably do a Google, or of course, when I get the slides to you, you can get a link from there. But of course, the other thing I was talking about was just that knowledge and the skills exchange, whether it's the workshops, the trainings, different mentorships. There's all these different ways that you can collaborate with other organizations. Thanks, Dora, for putting that Second Harvest in there. And I'm going to kind of breeze through these because I want to give you guys a chance to ask some questions too. But I just want to show you there's so many different ways that we can collaborate, right? We talked about that Liberty Mutual with those joint grant applications. And that's a big thing now because these foundations are wanting to amplify their impact, right? And they're realizing it takes joint efforts, bigger things. For these cross promotions, Instagram has an amazing collaborator feature where you can tag multiple organizations and put it out to all your audiences, right? So this is a great way to expand your audience, get new eyes on what you're doing and different things. For newsletters, I know an organization that specifically does a newsletter just for their volunteers, and they showcase other opportunities for those volunteers to give of their services within the community. Another great way to do things. And of course, we have volunteer and client referrals and just community building. But now we're going to get into how we do this, right? We have a lot of ways to do it and how not to do it, but how do we do it? So let's talk the how. Number one is just to change your mindset. And I know it seems super simple and super trivial, but it is probably the number one most important thing that you are going to do. Because if you continue to look at other organizations as competition, you're not going to get anywhere, right? If you ever thought that somebody was competition, I need you to now start thinking this is a potential collaborator, right? Because just imagine the possibilities if you just stop guarding all of your ideas and started sharing them. Now I know like people get sensitive in their things and they don't want people to steal different things, but like I really want you to think, number one, that no other organization is going to be able to do what you do exactly the way you do it, right? You are unique, your organization is unique, and you will have a unique spin on things no matter what you do or how you do them. I think number two, like we are trying to be the change we want to see in the world, right? We are after a mission and we are after impact. And I think we have to start focusing on that, right? If we continue just to make it about us and just our organization, it's really difficult to have the amount of impact that you really want to make. So this is where we're focusing. We're focusing on the mission and we're focusing on the impact, and all those people that seem like competition are now potential collaborators. And then number two, we're going to figure out what you bring to the table. Right? So you have a skill, you have resources, you have connections, and you have things that other organizations are going to find valuable. Maybe you're like really good at grant writing, or you have a really strong community network. Just going back to that organization that had lost their building, they are a POC run organization in a predominantly white area. So they have a lot of connections that other organizations simply don't. And one organization really, really wanted to start putting on cultural events and doing different things within the neighborhood, but they didn't have the connections, right? They didn't know the people, they didn't know who to talk to. And so they partnered up with this organization that could help bring them those connections and help put on these events in a culturally appropriate way. It's all about who you're willing to work with and what you're willing to put yourself out there, right? But that the organization that didn't necessarily have the connections, they had a building, right? They had a building, they had access to amazing grants, they could put on amazing events. That's something that the other organization with the cultural connections just didn't have. But together, they've created like a host of events over the last couple of years. So number two, or number three, I'm sorry, we're going to think about what we need, right? So you know who you are, you know what you've got. Now what is it that you need? What can another organization provide you that would make either your work easier or just make it more impactful, right? So this also helps you to target your search when you're looking for specific collaborators, right? You can go broad and just nurture a relationship, and that's really good. But when you have a specific need, this helps you to be just a little bit more strategic and just a little bit better. Okay, I love this little collaboration that's happening in the chat. That's fantastic. Yes, it'd be great. Like definitely go back and look at what people are doing and see if you can connect. Throw LinkedIn links into the chat as well. Connect, 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 connect. I love it. And then finally, what we're going to do is we're going to go unprepared, right? We're going to find our people. We're going to know what we need. We're going to know what we have. And we're going to approach that organization with a plan or an idea already. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. It may change and evolve. Chances are it actually will change and evolve, and that's okay. But what you're telling those people is like, hey, I'm coming ready to work. I'm coming ready to be a great partner, not just find one. And I'm doing my homework, right? I know what you guys have. I know what you possibly need. And I'm already in it. We're already working. So this is that breakdown. This is that summary, right? We're changing our mindset. We're figuring out what we're bringing to the table. We're thinking about what we need, and then we're going in prepared. So now I want you guys to start doing this right now. Start thinking like, what is one thing that your organization is amazing at that you could bring to a collaboration? Like, what are we doing? How are we showing up? I see Dr. Sandy is ready to collaborate, y'all. So are we still thinking? We still thinking about the different ways that you can show up, the different things you can do. I see, yep, somebody has a space. So if you know it, if you think about it, go ahead and put it in the chat. Tell people what you have. What do you have? What do you do? What are you great at? I don't want to hold you too long, but I want you guys to think about it because this is one of the first things we're going to do, right? So while you guys are thinking about it, let's dive into finding the right partners and really thinking about who we should collaborate, right? Because we're going to be hyped up about the benefits and we have tons of different ways that we can collaborate. But now we're going to try to find our people. Ooh, getting the word out. I like that. Because not everybody is into marketing and not everybody wants to speak out. So having someone who can do that is a great person to have on your team and on your side. So just like all the ways to collaborate, I want to let you know that there are tons of different people that could be the right partner for you, right? Because we talk a lot about collaborating with specific other nonprofits, but it could just be a community group as well. It could be a different business. It could be a government entity. Um, it could be so many different people, individuals that could be the right partner for your organization. So we want to start to like broaden our minds, right? Sometimes we only get very narrow-minded. We're only thinking businesses or we're only thinking like large organizations, but sometimes coming together with people that are really similar sizes can be incredibly beneficial as well, right? The biggest thing that you want to ask yourself is does their mission, their values, and their work ethic is aligned with yours? This is the key question for everything. No matter who they are, what they do, as long as you guys can align on your mission, your values, your ethics, and actually your goals as well, make sure those goals are aligned. This is going to be the person for you because a collaboration without alignment just does not work. Everybody ends up moving in different directions. Um, you got to have shared goals. Otherwise, your work is just not going to be meaningful and it's not going to make progress. And we're going to get into a whole lot of other problems, which we will talk about later. But this is your main question. This is the key question that you ask yourself when you come to a person that you're thinking about collaborating with. So, another question for you. Think about your last collaboration effort on a scale of 1 to 5. How aligned did you feel with your partner? Were you aligned on your missions? Were you aligned on your values? Were you aligned on your goals? Go ahead and just throw that number in the chat, whether it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Let's see how aligned we've been. 0. Ooh, I like these 4s. That makes me happy. That's amazing. You guys have been doing good. Ooh, a 5. Love it. Love it. See, I feel like you guys have been finding you guys have been finding some good partners. That's good to know. Good, 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 good. Because that is where we're diving in next. For those who have not been able to find, those who have not been able to find, let's take a look about where we're gonna find these people. Where are we gonna find these amazing partners? Number one, networking events, even things like this, right? Local nonprofit meetups, conferences, industry panels, all these things are gold mines for connections and for finding people, meeting up with people. Just come ready to meet. Keep your mind open. The other thing is social media, online forums, LinkedIn, Facebook groups. I have a list of Facebook groups here. If you want a larger list, let me know. Um, you can send me email and be like, hey, I want a list of all those Facebook groups that you have. But joining those is really, really great. You can join groups that are very specific to your sector and share your work, engage with others. I constantly see posts of just people looking for encouragement, asking for different advice. Different groups like on LinkedIn or Facebook groups are great way to just get a little bit of help from people that might be out there and to start building relationships and networks, right? It's outside of your community. And the other thing is just attend their events, right? This is something really simple and overlooked and underestimated. Like just show up, introduce yourself, support their work. Like nothing builds rapport faster than being genuinely invested in someone else's work and what they're doing and just being interested in real ways. Now, I don't want to say like don't go in with an agenda because we all have an agenda, right? But when you have a selfish agenda, it's very different than having one where you're looking to do something mutually beneficial, right? But just showing up, letting people know you're interested, letting people know that you're here for them, that you understand what they're doing, that you like what they're doing is probably the fastest way to start building that relationship. And then of course we're gonna take a little downturn, just a little bit, because we know no matter what we do, there's going to be challenges. We're dealing with people. It happens, whether it is with the other organization or even within our own organization when we're starting these collaborations, we have to learn to navigate these challenges because it's not going to be all sunshine and team photos all the time. I would love it if it was, but it can't be. So a few of the things that generally happen are just communication breakdowns, right? We've got clashing goals and sometimes uneven contributions. But I do not want you to worry about this quite as much because the solutions are actually really simple. They may be at times hard to implement, but they are super, 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 super simple. And number one is that we just start with clear agreements, right? We're spelling out roles, we're spelling out goals, and we're setting expectations up front. If these have to be written down, if you have to create a contract, like so be it. I know sometimes we get a little touchy and don't want to like make things quite that formal, like right off the bat. But if you have to do it, you have to do it, right? I know one of the questions that came in was just how to ensure you're getting like feedback from your partners or the people that use your services. And this is how we do this, right? We start out with really, really clear goals and agreements. We let them know upfront what is expected. We let them know upfront exactly what they can expect from you. And you would do that just right from the beginning, right at the very first part. The other thing is we're keeping communication consistent, right? We're having regular check-ins. We are not letting months and months go by without checking in, just depending on the scope of the project and what we're doing and how we're doing it. Sometimes this is a once a week meeting, and sometimes it's just once a month. Um, Sometimes it can be once a month and then moves into once a week, right? But you want to make sure you're having regular check-ins. You're making sure everybody is staying on task. We're making sure that everybody knows what's happening and that things are coming together exactly as they need to be. Again, there was another question about like team alignments after the executives have like done things. So this is another way, right? Just making sure your team is on board is keeping that communication consistent. And in all honesty, um, not to like put anybody down, but I would also probably never, ever, ever recommend creating that partnership or that collaboration without your team input before. If it's anything that is going to affect your team or something that they are going to have to implement, make sure that they are part of that communication and those agreements from the very, very beginning. And then, of course, we are prioritizing our alignment, right? If your emissions do not match, the work is not going to match either. And just remember too that we're not always going to get this perfect right off the bat. Sometimes we're going to, hit it out the park like 4 times, and then that fifth time, everything's just going to fall apart. But if we like start with these practices, if we one just set those clear agreements right off the bat beforehand, if you keep your communication consistent, we're going to alleviate and kind of mitigate a lot of these challenges that often come up. And I will probably say it 50 million times over and over again, like communication is the key. Communication is going to save you. And this is how we are going to make our collaborations work. And we're going to make them work for the long haul. Because ultimately, we don't want maybe just like a one-time project, right? We want to continue these relationships over time. We want to make sure we can collaborate again and again and again and continue to increase our impacts and really get out there and see what we can do for our communities. So that's my challenge for you for this year, for 2025, is really just embracing collaboration, right? I want you to look at where you are right now and just think, where could a collaboration take us farther? Whether it's a nonprofit down the street or like a local business, just you want to find a group that sees the world as you do, right? And I just want to encourage you to explore those possibilities because they're endless. There's so many out there. So I just want you to let you know, if you're interested, I have a book that's coming out this year that talks about this even more. Um, and it goes into actually probably one of the most important methods of collaboration. I think I didn't talk about it today, but it's just really collaborating with the communities that you serve and making sure that they have a very strong voice in what you're doing as well. But here is my information. You can email me, you can check out the website. And that's it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you have questions, would love to hear them. Let me.
Hi, I'm just going to follow up with some of the chat that's been going on.
Yeah.
Really excited to see and happy to see so many of you joining in and jumping in. But one of the things that's been raised that I think I'd like to follow up on is that in the spirit of collaboration, it seems like there's an opportunity here where nonprofit net can help support that among these organizations that you are
For
all
sure.
part of. And if you're comfortable with, it's something that I think that we can consider doing, which is sharing who's attending at these events. So I think it seems like so far I haven't seen any disagreements with sharing that information out for that you all are here, and we can do that with the follow-up email that's going on. And I think that's something moving forward is something to ask as you're registering for our events, if it is okay to share the attendee list and have that with all of you here. So I think that's definitely something that we've gained through this webinar today by Sharmon. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love hearing that. Yes.
If there are any questions, if you're able to, please show your video, unmute yourself and ask Sharmon your questions, because we still have a few minutes before we end at the hour.
Hi, I had a question that I had put in the chat earlier. Sharman, you addressed some of it, but it was a little vague to me. And
Okay.
as far as, organizations led by people of color, sometimes there's a lot of mistrust or there's a lot of
Yeah.
competition. There's a lot of, you're bumping heads all the time. But how can we get rid of that? How can we really try to develop trust between one another? That's what's so important to me. And I have tried to collaborate with so many organizations and they're just like, oh, I don't know. So how can we get past all of that?
That's a really good question. I feel like that's going to take it's going to take a little bit, right? Because it's going to take some of us just letting go of a lot of past hurts, a lot of things, and that's not necessarily anything you can do on their behalf. And so in situations like that, all you can really do is control you and your organization and how you go into these partnerships and these collaborations. And like I said, a good thing is just being prepared, like going in like, hey, like I know you guys do this and this is a great way for us to work together. Like let them know, hey, this is how we can save some money. This is how we can save some resources. This is what I can do for you as well. You want to make sure you're giving them that little bit to make sure like they know that you are not coming in just trying to take things from them, right? That, hey, I'm trying to give something up here. This is supposed to be mutually beneficial because there's a lot of Joes in the world, right? And I think that's where the problem comes in is so many people come in wanting to collaborate and really all they're looking for just someone to kind of lift them up. And they'll get to you a little bit later, right? Well, maybe down the road a few years from now, we'll like give you a little bit of handout here. And I think that has always kind of been the problem is people constantly taking, and so now they're a little less willing to give. And so how you come in and how you approach it and making sure they understand that you are giving as well is probably the most important part. Yeah.
Hi, I have a relatively similar question. First, sorry about the pajamas. I am working from home. Um,
I love her pajamas.
okay, good, thank you. So, a similar question I have is that I feel like in our field as nonprofits, or at least I work in the arts, which are very complicated, and sometimes it seems that there is a bit of a scarcity mindset
Mhm.
amongst artists,
Yes.
especially where there's not enough funding. I'm here representing an orchestra. Like there's not enough players around Boston. And I try very hard to share knowledge readily about grants or about players that I would recommend. But I know not everyone is always willing to do so. Now, I think the scarcity mindset is partially rooted in reality, but also partially rooted in competition. How do we get
Yes.
past this culturally? What would you say? How do we get past this and move towards a better culture of collaboration between people?
That's a really good question. So this is something I'm working with, and I always that be the change. I like route it through my head 50 million times a day, right? We are being what we want to see. And so I started a few things with a few organizations where I'm literally just making comments and sharing different things on social media. Sometimes it's just those little things that have already gotten picked up and noticed. And like not everybody's on social media, but the ones that are notice it immediately that, hey, you're sharing our stuff, you're sharing our events, this organization is doing all this stuff, and it makes them much more readily willing to work with you. And once you start that chain, sometimes you just got to get that little foot in the door, right? Just figure out. And that's another reason why I was like showing up to people's events is such an underestimated and underlooked way of doing this. Like if you just show up when they know that you're interested, when they know that you're invested in them and helping them, they are so much more willing to collaborate with you. And once you have started that collaboration and people see what you can do and what you've done through these things, then everybody wants to partner with you all of a sudden, right? And that is what I've constantly seen. You just get your foot in the door in those small little areas and it just begins to bloom and to blossom and becomes this huge thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I think showing up is very important. I value that a lot. In music, going to
Mm.
concerts is something that I take very seriously, and I think a lot about, who do we want to work with? And there are people who ask to work with us who's like, oh, I've never seen you at a show before. Well, there are people who worked with us who like have been going to our concerts for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with that a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, so this is Janelle. I'm going to apologize as well because I'm working from home. So I'm not, yes, the way I'm dressed. But one of the things that I heard you say, and I think it's important as well, is sometimes sharing resources. As simple as, we're all paying for subscription for all these different things. You mentioned Canva or, even some of the email subscriptions. Why,
Yes.
if we're paying this monthly, if we're able to say, okay, maybe I don't need you to help me and this is just a thought, I don't know if this is what you're thinking. You might not be able to help me with my event, but if we can share the cost of these subscriptions that we're not using every day, I don't know if that's something that, would be helpful.
No, I think for sure. I think this is like a great example of those little small things, right? That we don't ever think about. We tend to think much bigger, and we could save cost and share resource in these like small little things, these small little everyday things, or not even like I said, like you said, you don't use them every day, but you're having to pay these huge costs for them. And sharing different things in that way, where maybe you come together and have like a dual bi-monthly newsletter coming, from two different organizations, kind of sharing what you're doing that have like similar missions, similar things going on, so that you're not losing your audience. But no, that's a perfect example of like a smaller way you can collaborate and partner with another organization. Oh, I like this. To apply for funding that requires collaboration. That's a great one. I've seen so many more grants actually coming out, especially huge ones that are like multi-million-dollar grants that are requiring it come from like two or more organizations. So yeah, if you really want to dive head first in, definitely find a grant that's going to require that collaboration.
Great. Well, I just want to, if anybody has a couple more questions, stay on. I think we have a few more minutes. Otherwise, I'll wrap up right now. Thank you so much, Sharmon, for your insights on how organizations can further their missions by partnering and collaborating. Before you leave, a few quick reminders. Your feedback on today's program is very important to us. We appreciate your feedback on our satisfaction survey when you log out. And remember that hundreds of organizations, including yours, have benefited from our webinars. So we can keep them open, free to everyone without charge with your financial support. So if you're able to, please consider making a gift of $10 or $20. And be sure to watch our website and social media for program updates. Other than that, feel free to stay on. We have a couple more minutes.
I'm here. I'm open. You can also send me an email if you guys come up with a question later.
Great.
And I
And
think my email will be in that contact list as well.
yes,
So.
it'll be there. And I'll be making sure that all attendees here get a list of the other attendees as well, so we can continue this work of collaboration.
Yes. Yay. I love it. I always tell people I am not a gatekeeper. So if I got information that could be helpful to you, I'm going to give it. Thank you, everybody.